Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 279 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. Ryan, Adam, and Trey, who seems very fired up to be here tonight, got the dance moves going. Before we bring in the topics, let's bring in the crew. Trey, how's it going?
I forgot we were live and I was doing my Donald Trump dance. I'm sorry. I'm good. I'm ready for free agency. I'm ready for free agency, guys. Yeah. I don't know what else. What else is there to talk about? That's about it. Let's talk about free agency. Adam, man. How's it going, man? How's hockey? You're muted.
This could have not been a better possible.
This has been a great start to this episode. That's all I can say. First, we got Trey dancing within 30 seconds of the thing. And hockey's been good. Another big 2-game road trip this weekend. Won a big one at Swan River last weekend. And hope to win another 2 big ones this weekend. So, been good. But lots of CFL news too. So that's been exciting as well. Right?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a week since our last episode, our first off-season roundtable of 2025. We talked through a lot of news last time around, so go back, check that out afterwards. And there's been a lot more news in the last week or so we're going to talk about. Ahead on today's show, we'll talk about Andrew Harris joining the Riders coaching staff and Manitoba subsequently burning to the ground. We'll talk about Loucheiz Purifoy being released by the Edmonton Elks and then suddenly suspended, and the CFLPA's reaction to that. We'll talk about the latest signings as well, and then bringing back one of our best segments from last offseason, the Countdown, where we'll be counting down our top 5 remaining CFL free agents here on the show today. And we're going to do a draft style today, so no overlaps. You'll hear about, presumably, 15 top remaining free agents. Of course, all of these shows and all of this content is leading us up to our big CFL Free Agent Frenzy Show, February 11th, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. We'll be live for 8 whole hours that day, talking through everything from CFL Free Agency, as we have the last couple of years. Planning is underway. We've got some great guests booked already, more that we're trying to wrangle up as well. So make the Canadian Football Countdown a big part of your day on CFL Free Agency Day. As I always like to say, it's for the fans, by the fans. We do it for the love of the game. That was cheesy as heck. Anyways, moving on from that.
Just remember that's going to be on YouTube forever.
Yeah. It's not the first thing this episode that we need to remember is going to be on YouTube forever.
That's fine. I'm content.
So that dance will be on YouTube as well there, Trey. Don't worry.
I heard Adam's clipping things from the podcast for promotional stuff lately. So
you can use my dance, man. I don't care. I'm cool. There's a YouTube video of me singing with Nickelback somewhere, so I'm fine, man. There's worse things out there.
I've seen the video. It's quite the thing. We'll let people do their own digging to see if they can find it somewhere online. Go and see if you can find Trey singing with Nickelback. That's your homework. Anyways, the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. Learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. And we always want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. Check out the Discord, links in the episode description. It's free to join us over there. Lots of chatter, lots of CFL news being posted in there. So come on over to the CFC Discord and chat up any CFL news or any other sports, really, you want with us in between episodes. All right. Anything else you want to talk about at the beginning before we start jumping into some of the CFL news?
No, I got nothing.
Then let's get into our big first topic of the day, which I think the most notable one that probably not many people saw coming, but it makes sense when you think about it, is that Andrew Harris, notably born in Winnipeg, Bomber legend, BC Lion legend as well, I would say. Argos legend, maybe, is joining the Riders coaching staff as their running backs coach. Adam, you've got a new running backs coach. Can you believe it?
No, not really, to be honest, because of who Andrew Harris's kind of mentor, or who he was mentoring a little bit, was AJ Ouellette in Toronto. And I believe that those two have a good working relationship from what I've heard. And yeah, they actually said last year this was possibly going to happen. Didn't, but this year it did. Apparently he phoned Winnipeg first, said, hey, are you looking for a coach of some sort? And never got a phone call back. I mean, really, guys? What a big legend, isn't he? I don't know. But nevertheless, yeah, the Tillsonburg hockey phenom, Andrew Harris, is now a running backs coach for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I think he's probably the biggest, one of the bigger acquisitions for the Roughriders for sure. And now is probably one of the bigger acquisitions on the market for senior hockey for Saskatchewan right now. On a side note, if you're listening, Andrew, give me a call. Trey, what do you think of this?
It's absolutely hilarious. I love it. I love it so much. Am I good?
I think you're good now, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm all glitchy. Oh, am I good? Okay, I was doing so good. I moved the laptop around. We're closer to the Wi-Fi box, and everything's still going to shit. Okay, I think this Andrew Harris going to Saskatchewan is probably the second funniest thing to happen in the news outside of what's happening south of the border. So, I mean, it's great. I love it. I don't know why the Bombers are treating him dirty and not calling him back. I want to know. It makes me think there's more to the story about why he didn't get re-signed however many years ago. But yeah, I think it's hilarious, and I think you got a good coach there in Saskatchewan. And he just has, I don't know, he was coaching junior in BC at one point, and he's playing a lot of sports.
Owner, I thought.
Yeah, okay, well, fair enough.
I don't know about the owner. I know he was coaching the Victorian Island Raiders for a little while.
Yeah,
but afterwards,
so he's definitely got coaching.
I don't think he owned it. Did he?
Maybe, I don't know. My point is, he's coached before. Was more or less a player coach, probably to Ouellette in Toronto. Ouellette goes to Saskatchewan. I think this is a great fit. The chemistry those two guys had probably in Toronto, and now Ouellette, kind of, had a little bit of a down year or a little underwhelming at times in Saskatchewan last year. He heated up near the end, but probably not a bad idea, and I like it. But I also want to know why Winnipeg just is doing them so dirty. But it's whatever.
Director of football operations for the Vancouver Island Raiders was his title there. But yeah, it seems like things didn't end well for Harris here with Winnipeg, and that relationship soured, and that led to him going over to Toronto. And this would lead us to think the same thing. But yet they did still, didn't they give him a tribute on the Jumbotron quite a bit and a standing ovation twice the last two times he came to Winnipeg? And after he retired last year, I think he was at a game, and I feel like they give him a tribute. So it's kind of a weird situation. It's like an on and again, off again relationship between these two. And yeah, interestingly, that the Bombers didn't call him because the Bombers still have a vacancy at the offensive coordinator position. And I could see them maybe not wanting to go fully in that direction first. Maybe you want to get Harris's feet wet a little bit as a running backs coach, which is a position he was obviously dedicated to. And yeah, working together with Ouellette in Saskatchewan, I think it makes it at least clear to me that Ouellette is going to be the starter if it wasn't clear before. They have Rock Armstead in there as well, who actually I thought played better than Ouellette did last season. But remember last year when Andrew Harris showed up at a Riders game wearing an AJ Ouellette jersey and the world blew their minds trying to process it? Now they're back together. It makes sense, like we've talked about here. The most interesting thing to me, though, was I think in his press conference, he was talking about how he wants to move up and be a head coach and possibly a GM one day in the CFL, Andrew Harris. So maybe this is just the first stepping stone for him.
Yeah, it's a good stepping stone. He's got a great coach to work under, and Corey Mace. to learn how to be a head coach eventually. Jeremy O'Day's been there forever as a general manager now, and it seems to always be within reasons of success for bringing in some good names always as a general manager. And again, it's good to learn under people that you can work with real well. So I think, like, again, Corey Mace is probably one of the more dynamic kind of head coaches you have in the CFL. So yeah, I kind of look forward to seeing what Andrew Harris is going to bring as a coach as for a running back spot, because, you know, Mark Mueller, he was originally a quarterback. He knows quarterback and offense pretty well, but again, with a guy that knows running back perfectly, like Andrew Harris does, again, the CFL Hall of Famer someday will be. I think it's a great pickup for the Riders for sure. And you were saying, Ryan, one thing I found interesting, you were talking about how they had the Jumbotron tribute to Andrew Harris and all that. You got to remember some of that, it might not be the team wanting to do that, but the fans would have a riot if they didn't, right? There's a lot of fans in Winnipeg that love Andrew Harris. And if you don't do stuff for Andrew Harris, they're going to be like, what the heck? Like this, you're somewhat also kind of talking to the fan that remembers Andrew as a bomber and still wants to have that good time, mushy feeling one more time in Winnipeg, right?
That is fair. They do tend to make decisions like that to appease the fans. That's the whole reason Chris Streveler was with the team this last year, when arguably they could have found a better option. But you know the fan base was going to riot if he went off somewhere else, just like Andrew Harris. Bomber fans are attached to their players, and it's a tricky situation when that's the case, because this is a league where you should not stay attached to any players not named Jake Thomas.
Well, I think Stiegel spoiled us too, right? You know what I mean? Like one guy like that. But yeah, interesting points about Andrew Harris that just clicked in my head too. Corey Mace was the coach in Toronto when he was there too, right? That just, so makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Jake Thomas and Stiegel have spoiled Bomber fans, right? So you don't see that very often.
And also on a side note, the Rough Rider fans, we have been really busy all week. We made sure that we pulled off any mention of Andrew Harris and how much we don't like him anywhere on our page. We had to clean up all about that whole steroid thing. I mean, we don't talk about that in Saskatchewan. That was definitely not a mistake. I mean, that was totally on the CFL's end. They made a huge mistake. What were they doing?
It was cross-contaminated for sure now, right? It wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this reminds me of whenever Corey Perry changes teams in the NHL. Everyone hates him, and then he goes to their team, and they love him.
Pretty well, yep.
Yep.
Speaking of drug tests, great segue.
Who else couldn't pass a piss test? Let's see. Let's go.
Do you have to have one as a running back? On a side note, do you have to have one as a running back coach? We're fine. We're all good now.
We'll see. He isn't the first one in Riderville to won't be the first one.
Nope.
I'm sure. Loucheiz Purifoy, though, is one we were talking about. He was released by the Elks. Really good veteran defensive back. Has been, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe an all-star a couple of times in the CFL, and was released by the Elks. And then we found out he got suspended for 2 games due to a failed drug test. Now, interestingly, the CFL PA has released a statement, and I pulled up the article from 3 Down Nation here, basically claiming that Purifoy tested positive for Adderall in August 2024 and followed through all the proper steps afterwards, ended up with an ADHD diagnosis, then basically had a medical reason for using drug, and sounds like from what they're saying followed all the steps to make that known to the team and the league and try to work through it, knowing the potential gotchas of it. But there was not proper handling by the CFL according to the PA of this situation, and Purifoy, instead of working with him through it, just suspended him for 2 games. What do y'all think?
Adam, you want to go first?
Yeah, no, I don't know if this is the CFL's problem. I mean, or if it's CFL PA using someone for You got to look at both sides of it. And again, there's probably a little bit of truth on both sides of what this thing is. Does it look bad on the CFL if you just believe the CFLPA side? Oh yeah, that looks pretty terrible. The fact that you knew that this player had a mental health condition, essentially that's what the drug's used for, is for ADHD control of some sort. If you know the player has been diagnosed for that, has been using that for that, and then you saw the suspension anyways, and August 2024, boy, I'm sure that there was some more football between August 2024 and February the 1st of 2025. I'm sure there's been some football played between that time. Like, it's very strange that all of a sudden you would make this call. I could see Edmonton releasing him because he was not bound to be a free agent this year anyways. And I thought, okay, because again, Purifoy used to be a Rough Rider. I thought they're releasing him. They just are moving on from him. They're giving him a chance to sign early with somebody if he gets a shot. But then the 2-game suspension after, I was like, something's more to the way with this. And turns out it was. But very funny handling by the CFL. The CFLPA, I don't know what to say there. If that, by what's all effect there, should be truthful in their statement. I can't see anything wrong with it. It just doesn't look good in the CFL, especially if a player is trying to work with some struggles, and that's why they've been consuming, I guess it was Adderall this time.
Yeah, just to add to like the clarification, in the official statement from the CFLPA, it says the CFL instructed the Elks to not apply for an emergency therapeutic use exemption, which would have led to a proper review of it. Instead, just decided to suspend them. Like, if you take this at face value, like, this does not look good on the CFL at all for a league that, it should be promoting, health, mental health, all of these things, and supporting its players in that regard. Certainly doesn't look great.
Only the CFL, I think, would go and handle the Sean Lemon thing almost perfectly and then go shoot themselves in the foot the next chance they get when it comes to a suspension, right? Like, if it's, I don't know. I guess we don't know what happened behind closed doors, but if this is medically prescribed or it's an ongoing issue that he's had with his family and personal doctor, I don't know. Like, I guess it depends on what the issue with it is, because, like, I don't know, like, okay, because, like, sometimes you have surgery and certain things you could take certain steroids. Like, well, to me, it like I'm just using this as an example. I know Conor McGregor, he won't go back in the drug testing pool because he broke his leg and he's using steroids to heal his leg. It makes sense. If that was something like that, I'm sure there would be some kind of exemption being like, hey, your leg's broken, you need to take this. Obviously, if you're going to show up steroids in your drug test, there's going to be some leeway with that. So I think this is kind of should fall under the same boat. And, like, again, what's the football benefit of taking Adderall?
But the reasoning is, again, that I'm really wondering what's with the CFL is, why wouldn't you tell the Elks, go ahead if you want to put a medical exemption or an emergency exemption in? I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen here? I don't think it's going to be any issue. That sounds very strange. That's why I kind of am leaning to caution about believing everything on the CFLPA or on their memo. That being said, if that's true that they told them, no, we'll just suspend them, don't put a medical exemption in.
Well, and it's not like the CFL at the same time. Like, if you look at the release time now and when this came out, it's not like, oh, no, don't do that. Like, we're just going to suspend them because we have to take action now because there's a game next week. We've got like 5 months until the season starts. Like, why not go through the proper review process to make sure you get this right? Especially given, the stance that the league tries to take on mental health. I don't know. I feel like every time some sort of suspension comes out in the CFL, it is controversial. Granted, anytime a suspension comes out in other leagues is controversial as well, except when we look at ones like the NHL, it's mostly, for most of the time, for the case of just a bad hit. I feel like the CFL has a lot of more interesting, different, I will say, suspension reasons that they never seem to get right.
See you later, McDavid. Anyway, but yeah, it's crazy. Why is it like, and then to me, there must have been something going on if this happened in August. Like, we want to talk about the Andrew Harris one. I know that was about a month or two of an appeal process, right, before anything got announced, because they don't really announce anything until after the appeal and everything. That's one thing the CFL does differently. I think other sports, too, they announce it right away, like, hey, McDavid got suspended. Then McDavid says, yeah, I'm appealing it. And then you find out in a couple days or a day what happened. This sounds like there was an appeal and an appeal and appeal, and this has been a lengthy discussion if it's been since August, right? Like, and like you said, why is the rush now? Just because free agency, so you put that suspension in so a team doesn't sign them, thinking you're getting them for all 18? I don't know. It just seems dumb to me. This is dumb. Like, again, I just want to know what the potential on-field benefit is. This is like the one thing I said about the NFL. They crack down on marijuana, and like, what on-field benefit is there? Like, other than I guess it's an illegal substance still in the States, what benefit is it? If a player goes out there high, that's a bad thing, not a good thing. Like, you know, and you know what, and players, there was that one guy on the Cowboys that retired because he said it helped him off the field. Like, after just getting beat around for 3 hours, there's things that help him. And this sounds like it's probably helping the guy. I mean, I'm not diagnosed with ADHD, but I probably got a few things going on in my head. So, I mean, take all the things you need and screw football. If the CFL is going to do that to you, then I don't know. This just seems like it could be a bigger issue potentially, especially
absolutely. Like, I get wanting to put limits on it, obviously, so somebody doesn't get a major edge in performance due to performance-enhancing drugs. But at the same time, like, you want your league to be at its best. You want the people in your league to be at their best. And if somebody needs medication to help them feel their normal best without going that above and beyond that we've talked about, like, I know there are limits, and I guess it's easy if you don't have tight rules for them to get abused in different ways, unfortunately. But I don't know, a case like this to me seems like you should just let him take the medication that he needs. And
sorry, it's weird too. It seems the Players Association has decided not to grieve the suspension. So again, they think they don't have a case to fight it. Right? So, like, why would you not make a grievance against it if you thought you had a case?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, they are making really a grievance. And again, if this has been dragging on since August, both CFL and CFLPA, why are we just hearing about this now? I mean, it looks really stupid on a league to do such a thing. Again, the league is not the worst for going and trying to get things out pretty quick. I mean, you look at the suspensions when the Rough Riders, Miles Brown took a suspension. It was right away. I mean, it was the same thing. Also, when there's other suspensions I know of in the CFL, they happen straight away when they have to happen. But this one here, dragging out since August, there's more to this than meets the eye, and it doesn't pass the sound test. I don't know why. On a side note, though, we've never had a cross-checking penalty in the league now, ever. So, you know, we're one above the NHL.
Sure. Okay.
I'm sure there's been some helmets thrown.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. Andrew Harris says no. Andrew Harris never did such a thing. He's a good boy. He never did such a thing.
Oh, yeah, really? Yeah. This sounds like the Adam I know.
Oh, I can't wait to boo him on Banjo Bowl now. There we go.
Come to preseason, do it early. Got 2 chances.
That's true.
Well, speaking of failed drug tests, I'm kidding. I can't use that transition a third time. We don't have any more to talk about right now, as far as I know. But speaking of suspensions is the proper transition here. We talked a little bit about Sean Lemon and Trey, how you think that's one the CFL got right. Somehow we're back into this situation yet again where we're publicly debating should Sean Lemon be reinstated from his indefinite ban from the CFL from his bet that he placed on a game I believe he was playing in a number of years ago when he was with the Calgary Stampeders. Why are we back here again? What's changed since he was suspended last year? And I thought we had this conversation.
Danny Machocha wants a really good defensive lineman. That's what's happened.
Oh, it was Machocha.
It was Machocha went and said, hey, he should not be suspended any longer. And I have actually never heard much more ever since Machocha said that. But rules are rules. Honestly, I'm sick and tired of this one here. Lemon's been sitting for just under a year because last year he tried to appeal it or whatever for quite a while. And then they finally let him play a little bit and then he didn't. And you know what? he tried to get away with something he shouldn't have got away with at once. So that could be I think is probably just as bad as probably the offense that he did. Betting is not acceptable on a team that you're playing for or against. Plain and simple. I think the suspension should be upheld. They did it to Pete Rose for how long in Major League Baseball? They've done it to other players over the while.
Still do.
I mean, you look at what one of the Ottawa, I can't remember which player for the Ottawa Senators, half a season suspension. And I'll tell you right now, he's getting more paid than probably what Sean Lemon gets paid in 4 years. So
there was a Raptor too that was betting himself under on a lot of stats.
Oh,
there's a Raptor. He was on the D League. He was on the D League and he got called up and he bet the under on all his stats or something because they put him in a position. He was like the starting point guard in an emergency situation, and the betting odds had him pretty high just because he was a starting point guard or something. And and he bet on, and he's gone too. So I agree with you, Adam. It's every league is taking a hard stance on it, and you can't, like, just from a legal perspective, like, again, I deal with this in horse racing. I know the rigged tracks and I know how bad it looks. Like, you know what's going on. I've seen guys full blown pull back on their horse so they don't win. I've seen, drug testing. I've seen guys, cahoot races together. Like, you hear all of it. You know what's going on. And that's why horse racing's dying. You can't have that in NFL, CFL, MLB, whatever, all these big leagues. You can't do it. The USC was facing a problem where coaches and trainers were allowed to bet. You just can't do it. And I get why it's coming back up. A lot of people, again, are going to compare it to Kelly. To me, it's apples and different apples, but it's, you just can't have it. Well, I had some other point I was going to say. I don't remember. Maybe it'll come to me.
This is why you should always just bet on senior hockey in Saskatchewan. No, please don't bet on senior hockey in Saskatchewan, or go within your limit. Don't bet the ant farm.
Yes, never bet it's always don't bet the farm, bet the ant farm. Trey and I looked up the prices of ant farms one time on the show. It is surprisingly affordable for most people.
Is that factoring in inflation and the U.S. dollar tendencies?
All right, not those 25% tariffs.
Yeah, are there tariffs on ant farms from Amazon? Maybe.
I had a good weekend in UFC betting some ant farms. So it was good. So, I think we're good.
What's the FM fan in the YouTube chat wants to know what's the over-under that Adam gets 2 goals this weekend? I'm going to strongly bet the under, given that Adam never touches the ice.
Exactly. The only time I touch the ice is when I'm crossing it to carry gear for the training spot, if I do that. Most times I'm up in the area to go and announce the game. So, But if you want to bet the over, I mean, all the power to you.
No, I was purposely excluding those details to make it seem like you were just a bench warmer the entire game, Adam. You never saw the ice.
He gets all dressed up and he just sits on the edge of the bench. He tapes the guy's sticks for him.
I'm totally wearing a Buff uniform next game, or next time we have a podcast.
Well, it is the we are the official, unofficial Canadian football podcast of the Theodore Buffaloes senior hockey team. There you go. This ad was not paid for. But it could be.
Oh, don't worry. It'll be paid for when I start putting certain other ads up.
Hopefully you put the right date on them. Anyway, speaking of being paid, a number of guys from around the league got paid this week in contract extensions that we won't touch on all of them because there were quite a few, but I figure I'll go through the CFL news list. I'll mention each of them, and I'll stop me after any of the ones that you'd like to talk about along the way. Going back to the news since last time we were here on the podcast, we talked about it a little. The Bombers extended defensive lineman Jake Thomas for another 1-year contract extension. How many years is that now for Jake Thomas with the Bombers? That's got to be his 13th season this year. Pretty impressive. One of those guys that...
Who's got more years, Milt Stegall or Jake Thomas?
Ooh. That's a good question. I feel like it's got to be Jake Thomas, right? Was Stegall in Winnipeg for 13?
Well, it was with Atlanta for a little bit with the Milt, so...
But yeah,
he was with the Bengals.
Oh, yes.
Was he the Atlanta or the Bengals? I thought he was with Bengals.
I think it was.
Okay,
Bengals.
you're right. Yeah.
Jake Thomas
He went
back
to,
for
he
another
went
year.
to Ohio or Miami. Sorry, I'm cutting out again. Just ignore me.
All right. Cam Judge back with the Toronto Argonauts. Recently reacquired in a trade, signed a 2-year extension through 2026 with the Argos after being acquired there. The Argos released linebacker Jonathan Jones. I wonder if that's related to bringing in Cameron Judge. We talked about Purifoy being released by the Elks. National defensive back Alonzo Adai re-signing with the Ottawa Red Blacks was notable. We talked about Andrew Harris. Dustin Crum re-signed to a 1-year extension with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Maybe we like talking quarterbacks. Maybe let's stop there and talk about Dustin Crum. I thought he would have been one of the best backup options out there in free agency. I would have actually, with Davis Alexander locked up in Montreal, with Trey Ford locked up in Edmonton, if I'm looking for a backup quarterback, I think I probably would have actually wanted Dustin Crum in Winnipeg, for example. Thoughts on him going back to Ottawa?
I was kind of surprised about it. I mean, there's lots of still backup spots open. If you look over in Calgary, there's an open backup spot. There's one, I think, definitely in BC that would be open. There's, again, you're right, Winnipeg has a big one open. I really don't see them re-signing Chris Trevler until, Mike O'Shea becomes loyal and re-signs Chris Trevler. I was surprised about that one. But Ottawa actually did do some re-signings this week. They were really busy with the pen and paper. If you take a look, it was Justin, don't call him Jake Hardy. He re-signed with the Ottawa Red Blacks, probably their top receiver from last year, if I'm not mistaken. So that was a big signing. I believe they also re-signed, I don't think it was Jalen Acklin. I believe it was Braylon Addison was re-signed also by the Ottawa Red Blacks. And Darius Bladak, offensive lineman national, he was re-signed by the Red Blacks too. So Ottawa was really, really busy with the pen and paper this week, trying to get the guys that they had on their team back in Ottawa that they wanted, I guess. So, and
Hunter Richie Leonia as well.
Oh, Richie Leonia. Okay, perfect. And Crum, honestly, great backup quarterback, I think. Did some work behind Drew Brown a little bit this year. Maybe not as much as usual, because actually Drew Brown stayed upright for most of the year, which is kind of a rarity for the Ottawa quarterbacks. I guess it's going to be Dustin Crum, and we'll be talking a little bit later maybe about their other backup, Jeremiah Mazzoli. He might make a pretty good backup option for some looking CFL teams.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Any thoughts on Crum or any of the Red Blacks re-signings that Adam talked about there, Trey?
Nah, I'm not high on Crum. I wish I was like you. I think I'm not high on him. I want all to be better, but
I get attached to quarterbacks that have those couple good games. We've seen it. We saw me draft Taylor Cornelius in the first round of the fantasy draft. It happens.
You got right on Rourke once, and now that every quarterback has a couple good games, you're just going all in, all on red. It's just, I love it.
Yeah, you have to. That's the way to go.
I guarantee Ryan will be picking Jake Mayer first round this year.
I might. We'll see.
I
don't know what I'm going to do with my draft
I have
strategy.
No idea. I don't want to talk about fantasy. I think the quarterback shuffle has been so crazy. I have no idea who to draft.
There's one dependable that you can always draft, and he happens to be in black and gold.
Bo. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Bo's not being drafted first overall in our draft. Something's going wrong.
It's rigged, yeah.
I will pay my 100. If I don't get the first overall pick, I'll pay my 100 waiver dollars to trade up for the first overall pick to get Bo.
Okay, hold up. Now you want the first overall pick.
Oh, yeah.
Every year you take the third or something stupid. Now
when the $1 million man is available, you need him.
I look forward to the challenge, Ryan. Richard over in the chat. Chase Bryce will be the backup in BC. They've been grooming him for the position. That's right. I've seen Chase Bryce in there last year, and he looked okay. I think, he probably would make a pretty good backup. So thanks, Richard, for that one.
Well, same with Winnipeg. I like the back with Wilson.
Yeah.
I didn't mind him. I would be comfortable with him being a backup. He did good on short yardage, and honestly, too, with sometimes the play, he had a big play opportunity. I wouldn't mind him being the backup and save money and not go for a guy, 100, 200,000 backup if you still got him kind of on a relatively rookie American deal.
I would dare say, and like we haven't seen much from him, so it's maybe not a fair comparison, but Chase Bryce seems very similar to the situation for Davis Alexander out in Montreal, where he was with the team for 3 or 4 years. He was third, fourth string quarterback when it started, had some good preseason games, and worked his way up to the backup. And that's all you really need to do in the CFL is work your way up to the backup, and you will get a shot to start because somebody is going to get injured ahead of you on that depth chart. And maybe it'll be his time at some point in the near future. Another interesting signing, the Calgary Stampeders signing running back Dedrick Mills to a contract extension. I honestly didn't see that one really happening because I thought the relationship between them wasn't great this year. There was talk coming out of training camp of things not going very well on the sideline in the preseason, and I think he got scratched for a little bit and then left the team for personal reasons and then came back. The Stamps had no idea what they were doing at running back all season when they rotated between, it was Mills and Peyton Logan and Kylan Hill, and I feel like there was a fourth one in there I'm missing, but those were the main ones. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that Dedrick Mills is back in the Stampeders uniform. Thoughts?
I agree. I could see that. It kind of seems very Andrew Harris-y, but this one worked out. So
almost like they need a running back coach of some sort in Calgary to calm it all down. But anyway, you know what? I was kind of surprised that Dedrick Mills re-signed there immediately. Thought maybe he might look at the open market, but you know what? There's not a lot of spots available. Dedrick Mills is a veteran running back. Again, even in his own kind of area, I'm guessing that this probably means that you're going to see Kylan Hill come up and start taking a bigger position in this team for Calgary, because I don't know if Dedrick Mills can make a whole season anymore. Last year, he only played maybe half the games, maybe. Otherwise, it was Paul and Logan. Yeah, Paul and Logan. It was. I keep saying it. I know. I'm sorry.
Logan.
Peyton Logan. I'll get those right one day.
Could you imagine? Oh man, anyways. Boxing the WWE to CFL. Logan Paul. Okay, great.
Hey, there's lots of guys that go from CFL to WWE.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, Peyton Logan and probably Dedrick Mills. I'm guessing Peyton Logan's probably the odd man out here. I'm guessing they're going to, Kylan Hill's under contract as far as I know. So, yeah, you'll probably see Mills and Logan, or not Mills and Logan. You'll see Mills and you'll see Hill, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Looks like a lot of guys are talking here about the Toronto Argonauts right now about their defensive stuff.
They're talking about the linebackers specifically, or the defensive side for Toronto. I have a feeling we're going to end up talking about the guys who are free agents there a little bit later on in the show. So maybe we'll save that for then. But when I'm thinking about Mills back to Calgary, it's kind of like you said, Adam, what's the better spot for Mills to go? And also, what's the better direction for Calgary to go? They're not going anywhere else on the free agent market. Really, the only notable pending running back free agent is Kadeem Carey, who just, trash talked their head coach after winning the Grey Cup. We talked about that on last episode. So I don't see that being a mended relationship necessarily. So, maybe this is the best they've got, and you look for one of those diamonds in the rough, and whether that's Hill or another training camp invite potentially as well. And I think Mills is still a good back if they can right the ship there. And get him more involved. And it's a whole new offense this year with Vernon Adams Jr. at the helm there as well. So interested to see how he plays into that. Bo Lacombo, I believe linebacker for the BC Lions, announced his retirement after 10 seasons. Wow, I can't believe it's been 10 seasons of Bo Lacombo already. That does not feel like that long. That's only 3 less than Jake Thomas, surprisingly. I know Lacombo has been around the CFL. I think spent some time with Montreal and BC at least. Heck of a career, so congrats to him on hanging up the cleats there. The Lions extended another linebacker, though, Isaiah Messam, to a contract extension. Red Blacks signing national defensive lineman Kenny Onyeka to a 1-year extension. Scrolling through the list here, seeing what are the most notable. Braylon Addison, Adam talked about, back to Ottawa. He played a pretty significant role for them down the stretch. Kind of actually played running back a little bit for them. Tell us about offensive lineman Trevon Tate re-upping with the Riders, Adam.
Yeah, that was a big one. I mean, they needed to get a right tackle after Reed went down to the United States on an NFL deal. And on the other side, they've got Hardrick coming back. So, which I guess today was kind of leaked that he restructured his contract for the Riders. So, yeah, there's definitely some spots available for Saskatchewan. But Trevon Tate, he was kind of that utility guy that you could put almost anywhere on the line. But he does settle a good spot for the Rough Riders. And he's a good signing for the team. Hopefully, I'm thinking that they still need maybe one or two more pieces in Saskatchewan. But Tate, he's a big one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they'll sign a bunch of offensive linemen on the opening of free agency, but he was definitely a good piece there this year. Justin Hardy, you talked about that one of the top receivers in the CFL. He would have been probably number one, maybe number two on my list of top free agents if he was available. Happy to see him back in Ottawa and finally getting the recognition he deserves. DeMonte Coxey back with the Argos through 2026. Trey, thoughts on as I feel like you're our Argos guy. I don't know why. I mean, you got the Grey Cup ring. Thoughts on Coxey back for the Argos?
I thought that was big. That was kind of one of those ones where not fully paying attention to the free agency list, that not realizing he was a free agent was like, yeah, damn, good thing you locked him up, because that was kind of an interesting aspect of the Argos team last year, was kind of their receiving core, because they had, my names are escaping me right now. The Canadian that went to Edmonton. They
Curly Gittins Jr.
Yeah, right. They had him. He's gone. Then they brought in, oh man, my name's escaping me right now.
Polk,
but then they also brought in the ex-bomber. Bailey, right? Who's like leading
3 for 3 tonight.
Yeah,
there we go.
Who was like leading the team in receiving yards, and then they cut him, and then it was just a weird situation. So, no, Coxey spent some time on my fantasy team, I believe, and yeah, he was. It definitely is a big re-signing there for the Argos, especially the defending champs. Right, you're trying to keep as much of the band together as you can.
He certainly was one of Kelly's favorite targets 2 years ago. This year, I feel like he had some up and downs, but once Kelly came back, yeah, he was definitely a big play guy for them there. Ajo, released by the Riders to pursue NFL opportunities, promptly signs with the Indianapolis Colts, Adam.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate one because he didn't really have a huge impact on the Rough Riders this year. Played 12 games, had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, something along those lines. But he was a vocal point of the Rough Riders. He did seem to kind of get his confidence and get his mojo going. And I guess the Indianapolis Colts liked it quite a bit because they gave him a contract to bring him in. And you know what? For an 8th round pick, I believe he was, or something along those lines. That's pretty great. I hope that he does real well in the NFL. I hope he never comes back to the CFL, makes a whole pile of money, and does real well for himself. But if he doesn't, I hope he comes back to Saskatchewan.
Yeah. The only downside of when players from up here go down there, they're usually the really crappy teams that just are trying to rebuild. Cause
I know.
It's not like he could have went to the Chiefs or anything, or the Bills, but yeah, no, good for him.
He will catch at least, if he gets into the lineup, he will catch at least one of the 7 Anthony Richardson passes a game.
No, let's not push it here.
Oh, okay, I was thinking about who the quarterback is. Yeah, he's trash too, because they benched him for a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, if Joe Flacco's in and he's throwing like 50 times a game, then Joe's about to be an NFL superstar if he could get in the lineup. But I don't know. They do have some pretty good receivers in Indianapolis as well. So I wish them all the best. I don't get my hopes up with most of these receivers signing the NFL. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't watch a ton of NFL games, but there's less receivers typically involved, right? You typically have like your two main guys, whereas I feel like CFL, you kind of have your main 3 or 4.
Yeah, you probably have 2 to 4 depending on your formation at a time, and they also have the tight end too. They're more of a heavy tight end in league, so. Yeah, yeah, three receivers and 2 tight ends, or sometimes some teams do 2 running backs. It's a different formation setup.
Yeah, I feel like they get the running backs involved in the passing game a lot more. Just to round out the news here for the week, I think the main other notable one, offensive lineman Andrew Pearson re-signed by the BC Lions. And from draft standpoint, Canadian quarterback Taylor Elgersma becomes the first U Sports QB to be named to the Senior Bowl. So are we in the era of the Canadian QB taking over? Because we've got Rourke, we've got Ford, we've got Rourke 2.0. Now we've got him. This seems like I'm seeing more Canadian QB chatter than ever before. Remember when it was just Brandon Bridge?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I would hope the best, but until now, the NFL coaches get that stigma out of their head that a Canadian quarterback can't do anything. Again, we've seen that this year. You're telling me Nathan Rourke couldn't be better than anything the New York Giants could offer? Like anything at all? They could have went in the crowd and picked up a better player than any NFL quarterback they had, and they had Nathan Rourke. So, you know what? Until the NFL coaches change their mind, you're going to see players drafted, I think, in the NFL. But again, I think Curtis Rourke is probably going to get a pretty high spot in the NFL draft. But you know what? Until they actually play him, it doesn't do anything.
No, I think the Canadian talent in football on both sides of the border is at an all-time high. If you look at NFL players, you got St. Just on the Commanders. You have Hubbard. You got there's way more. I'm just blanking right now. I got hit by a tired wall right now. All-time high. But the one position that's not getting any respect, like Adam said, is under center for whatever reason. So, if again, like you said, if a Canadian quarterback that went to an American college can't make it, it'd be very interesting to see what a U Sport quarterback can do. But yeah, I good for him.
And you know what? Even like you look at most of the talent spots in the NFL, they just don't seem to appreciate Canadian talent maybe as much as they should. I mean, You look at way back in the day, Andy Fantuz went down to the U.S. I thought he should be a shoo-in for a spot on a poor Kansas City team. Nope. You look at, I think it was Weston Dressler was down in the U.S. Should have probably should have stuck down there. Looked like a new Wes Welker. Nope. Even a year or two ago, Dalton Schoen. I thought that guy should definitely be. I know he's American.
He got like 14 workouts though. Like
he got a lot of workouts, but in the end, you can have as many workouts as you want. Is he back in the CFL? Yep. It just seems like again, there's the odd one that makes it through. Cam Wake's a good example. The gentleman out of Denver that played for the Stamps, Singleton. That's a great example. Doug Flutie, of course, and there's a few others. But you know what? There's so many players, so many things. And again, as much as everybody says talent or politics have nothing to do with it, internal player politics, it has something to do with it.
I'll just throw this out there. He's not fully Canadian, but I think Alex Singleton's the best CFL or Canadian / CFL player, down there right now. So it's good to see him. Is he hurt?
Sure.
Or is he playing still?
He got injured this year, I think. He got a season-ending injury, if I remember.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I haven't heard his name a lot, and he's got a big game this weekend if he is playing. But
he's on the Broncos now, I think.
Yeah, he's on the Denver Broncos.
You're right.
Tackles last year.
The picture on his Wikipedia page is the Eagles still.
Okay.
Never mind. No, I thought he was. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
CFL. All we got to do is just remind NFL coaches down there that they don't get charged a 25% tariff for bringing in a Canadian player.
Well, FM fans making a point. 28 Canadians in the NFL, but the thing is, they're not like third string offensive linemen either. Like we have guys at great, like I said, Hubbard, St. Just, he's got a big game in Washington. There's guys out there in crazy good positions. And it's just, quarterback for whatever reason isn't one of them right now.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they had Brett Jones down there for a long time. There was a big French Canadian. He played for one of I think for the Chiefs, was it?
The doctor?
Yeah, the doctor. I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I just know he's a doctor because he wanted to put doctor on his jersey and they wouldn't let him.
Yeah. But there's good Canadian talent down there. I mean, Browns Hubbard's another one. I mean, good
Chase
talent.
Brown, too.
There you go.
Brown. I mean, they got good talent, but just they got to start using them.
Just to catch up on a couple of chat comments here, we were talking about the Argos receivers and the re-signing of Coxie. Comment here that outside of Coxie and DeVaris Daniels, Unger are currently the third leading receiver with 400 yards after Pope was gone. So, definitely a good re-signing there with DeMonte Coxie. And a comment here from Scott. Who do you think will be the new commissioner in the CFL? Not you, Adam. Sorry, it's not going to be you. Maybe it will. I don't know. Stay tuned for perhaps another episode later in the offseason where we debate which of us should be the CFL commissioner. But it's hard for me to pick a name because I just don't know who the candidates would be, right? Like, is it going to be another former player in the CFL? Is it going to be somebody else? When you look at the range of commissioners we've had across the CFL, we've really had a big range of different guys between Ambrosi and Jeffrey Orridge and Mark Cohen, right? There's a lot of different where I feel like it is just a wide playing field. Unless you guys have any name specifically to throw out, nobody jumps to mind as a strong candidate.
And you got to remember also with the Canadian commissioner, the CFL commissioner, any commissioner is not, again, he has to have the players in mind, don't get me wrong, but his main job is to make money for the owners of the CFL. That's what every CFL commissioner's main goal is, right? If you look at Gary Bettman, as much as you'd like to say he looks after the fans, it's a little piece of it, but mostly it's making sure that those 33 owners are making money for the NHL. So the next CFL owner or commissioner, whoever it is, has to have a good business relationship with the owners, has to be able to work good with the owners and the governors of the CFL. One guy I can really think of that would probably be a good choice around this area anyways, he just didn't win his last election into the Saskatchewan government. I would say maybe Gene Mikowski would make probably a good choice for a CFL commissioner. Has a little bit of politics in him, knows how to talk to people, knows how to kiss hands and, shake hands and kiss babies. Better not get that backwards.
Please do not get that backwards. Oh, no.
Anyways.
Well, I always say that backwards just for fun. I always.
Yeah. I usually do too. That's why I was trying not to mess up. Anyways, no, Mikowski I think would be a good choice from Saskatchewan. But there's so many others. And I mean, you don't know who really is interested in the position. Could be a guy that never had anything to do with the CFL. It could be just, again, you could have a politician. Maybe Justin Trudeau wants the job. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the CFL one's a weird one because they always come out of left field. Like, I didn't know like who Ambrosi was or Orridge. It's not like the other leagues were like who the NHL deputy Bill Daly seems to be the heir apparent whenever Bettman stops sucking people's blood to survive, and same with baseball. Manfred was kind of the heir apparent and after C League, and same in basketball, but there was Stern and then Silver was kind of his number two, or there was always this guy, a name of someone who's going to be the heir apparent, right? And I know the CFL never has that. We don't really talk about the deputy commissioner, even if there is one, right? There isn't some vice person that we talk about. Like we see Bill Daly all the time in the NHL. People know who he is just as much as they know Bettman. So if he becomes the next commissioner, it's not shocking, right? So, but CFL, like what was it? Orridge was some American TV guy or something. Like they could. Yeah. I'm waiting to see this job on Indeed, honestly, and I'll throw my resume on there because how they just randomly pick it sometimes, you never know.
You truly never know. So, yeah, I can't wait to see who it will be, though, and hope we get that answer sooner rather than later. Would be good, at least.
On a side note, I just looked up who was some of the former commissioners. A guy named Donald Crump was the commissioner of the CFL at one time. That's
Donald Crump.
Donald Crump.
That's funny.
Actually?
Yeah.
All right.
Was a commissioner for January 1990 to 1991. Was an executive for Harold Ballard with the Maple Leafs and the Ticats. Yeah. Quite a bit of stuff about him. Passed away in 2011, but yeah, he did a lot of work with the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
All right. Fun
Cool.
fact of the day. Just learned it. Right on. Before we get into our countdown here, Adam, you want to quickly take this last chat comment here? Who are the Riders going after in free agency? Or is that going to be part of your countdown?
Well, there's one or two in there, but you know what? For the most part, I think Saskatchewan just really needs to look at the two sides of the football and maybe a little bit of defensive back. They got to look at offensive line because we seem to go through those as much as we go through wheat in the province. I think it's pretty much in and out all the time. We definitely need some more offensive linemen. I mean, you've seen some serious injuries last year, and that did cripple the Rough Riders quite a bit in the end. And they always seem to have it. So I think it's one of those things that they need to address in the offseason a little bit. One thing also is probably the wide receivers. I think they need to look at a little bit. Not really that we have excessive depth in Canadian wide receivers. We always did. But American side, yes, we've got some good ones coming up. Johnson is one that I can think of. You've got Jarrett Stearns. You do have a few pieces that are there, but I think you need that real. There is nobody in the Canadian or American receivers that's a real bona fide number one starter that you have to have on your team. Even Keon Schaefer-Baker, he's not that guy yet for Saskatchewan that you say, okay, that's their go-to guy. I really don't think Saskatchewan has one of those, and if somebody wants to argue on me, I don't mind it. Brandon says that we should go after a wide receiver from the Bombers. Well, there's a couple of receivers I've got, but I'll bring them up here in about probably 2 minutes.
I mean, I will argue. I can get what you're saying. Like, I think the Riders are stacked at depth at wide receiver with who they've got. You've got Sean, and I think most of these guys aren't free agents, but you've got Sean Bain in the list as well. You've got Dante Myers, who looked really good when he came onto the scene last year, and so maybe there's a mix of. And the guys you talked about, there's Sam Emilus. We didn't talk about him, right? He's Canadian, 1,000-yard receiver there. So you've got a mix of already the upper echelon guys and a lot of the up and coming ones. And I think a guy like Keyshawn Johnson can become that receiver that you're talking about. I mean, he had 6 straight games with a touchdown down the stretch and became that clutch receiver. So if I'm the Riders, I'm looking at all of these other holes you were talking about before I'm looking at anything at receiver. Because if you get a full year of healthy Trevor Harris and all of these guys, that offense is going to roll.
I think so, but again, if you look at a receiving core, that's a very young receiving core, right? You're talking about a lot of young players on that. I mean, Sean Bain Jr., I think he's just off of his draft contract.
He's in year 3 or 4 now.
Year 3 or 4, and Sam Emilus, I think, is year 3 or 4. Keon Schaefer-Baker is probably your veteran of all people. I think he might be on year 5. So I always say you should have one really good veteran receiver. Again, when we won in 2013, it was G. Roy Simon. He was the receiver. He wasn't used a lot. I mean, but he was that guy that really was one of those that you had to that you could really use and rely on when you had to rely on him. I think the veteran receiver still at hand is still a helpful thing, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. FM fan, I know you just brought up a point for the defensive lineman. Malik Carney, yeah, he's a big re-sign for the Rough Riders when they can get him. They need to have him as soon as they can. Trevin Tate is who you're talking about, Brandon. He's number 64 on the Rough Riders. They also renegotiated the contract today of one Yoshi Hardrick. So the Rough Riders might have some extra cash on their hand. I don't know. It's so hard to tell with restructuring. But yeah, defensive line, they've got a few holes that they haven't filled yet. Micah Johnson's one of them. I think that he probably is a big re-signing that they need. Miles Brown hasn't been re-signed. I think he's going to be a really good D lineman coming up in the future here for the Rough Riders. And linebacking wise, they've got some pieces in there for special team, but you're right. Malik Carney and who's the other one that I was thinking of there need to be re-signed. On a side note also, I seen Bo Lacombo retired. If they want Nelson, he might become a free agent pretty soon, BC.
Do you think they have a need to replace one Lacombo with another for some reason?
Absolutely, because we don't want him in Saskatchewan. No.
Is that just so they can reuse the jerseys? I don't know.
Well, they already got the name bar. All they got to do is just peel it off, put it on a new one, and away they go. It's simple as that. It's real easy to use.
Teams should make all of their transactions based on that plan.
Yeah, and I'm very interested also. I know I'm not sure who was talking about it way up in the top of the comments. This is the year of the defensive back. If you want to get a DB, there are lots of them and lots of good ones that are available in this free agency period. It'd be interesting to see where they all land, but I wonder if DB's starting to become that kind of like a running back position, as we always said. It's you can get a pile of DBs anywhere.
For sure. Well, let's get into, or sorry, do you have any thoughts there, Trey, before we get into our draft?
No, let's get this draft. Let's get it going.
All right, let's get into it. So again, we're going to be drafting our top 5 CFL free agents. You can't pick one that somebody else picked, but we're each going to have a list of 5 at the end of this, and then everybody listening can go and let us know who picked the best group of 5 pending free agents using whatever criteria they want. Adam, you came up with this idea, so I'm going to let you decide the draft order.
Poof. It's snake
That's
draft?
going to be a challenge.
Yes, it will be a snake draft, I guess.
Yeah, it has to be snake. Otherwise, it's not even close to fair. I want to go third.
Okay.
Because I want to see who you two actually have first. You know what? And because, why don't we just go in the line that we're in? Ryan, you can go first. Trey, you can go second. I'll go third, and then we'll rotate.
That sounds wonderful, because then I don't have to move our names around on the slideshow I've got up and running here. So,
always thinking for a headache for you, Ryan.
Always saving me a headache. Yes, I'm sure.
Or creating one of the two.
One of the two. Does this show up properly on the screen?
No. I did.
Is it blurry? Let us know in the chat if you can actually see this or not.
I can hardly see it, so.
Okay, hang on.
We go. Add that to the list of Reddit complaints. Our audio sucks, and they can't see our visuals.
We'll make it work. Here we go.
At least we get complained about on Reddit. That's a win.
Hey, if they're talking, they like us.
All right, there we go. I got it fixed.
Trey, if you're going to spell it, you swine. Anyway.
What?
I don't know. If you're going to talk shit about me, it's Trey.
I thought I had a typo in there. You scared me for a second.
I wouldn't call you swine, Ryan. That's fine.
Not on air, at least.
Or maybe we'll see how this draft goes.
We will see how this draft goes.
You take my number one choice. Let's see.
Well, I was hoping to be later in the draft because I don't know. I have my list of 15, but I haven't decided who is where. So I'm going to play it safe and go with probably the player you would all expect me to go with on here. And I'm going with wide receiver Justin McInnis of the BC Lions. I think there are some very good wide receivers available in free agency this year. I expect BC to probably make a strong effort to re-sign him ahead of time, especially when we talked about last week. I think them looking at options to ship out 3 of their receivers potentially to make room for him. But 92 catches, 1,469 yards, led the league in receiving yards last year, I believe, and 7 touchdowns. Huge breakout season. I called it last year, so I want to have Justin McInnis in my group this time around.
All righty.
As we move on to Trey in your first draft pick.
Well, I'm actually going to go to a guy they ended up talking about in the group chat just here when Brandon says Saskatchewan Roughriders need to sign the Trey Ford, the brother. And then FM Fan says he thinks Winnipeg still has his rights. I don't believe so. He's listed as a free agent on there. And if things don't work out, I think he's working out with the Annapolis Colts with a Jew there. But yeah, I think Tyrell Ford's one of those guys that maybe you should go on. He's not a DB, a dime a dozen kind of guy. So I would go with Tyrell Ford. 7 picks last year, big part of the Bombers' defense. Any team would love to have him. Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, did we were either of these guys near the top of your list? Do you regret taking the 3rd overall pick?
No, I don't regret it at all because actually my first overall pick is still actually on the board.
Ooh.
This guy here had 1,070 yards last year on a team that really had some question marks in quarterback. Still can score pretty much all the touchdowns you could imagine, and maybe wants a little bit much in free agency. We'll see how that works out. But I'm going to go with Eugene Lewis of the Edmonton Elks. Here's my thing about him that I really liked. To me, it was between him or Dalton Schoen. Dalton Schoen's got the upside and years probably left on him. But Eugene Lewis has been one of those Mr. Reliables and is always able to make every game, it seems like. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Eugene Lewis on this one. That being said, I do have the first round pick in the second round. Let me take a look here. I think I am going to go with I'm going to go with another former Edmonton Elk. D-line is really important in the league, and he's one of those guys. He was traded last year. I thought it was kind of an odd trade for Edmonton to make, but Toronto sure loved him. I'm going to go with Jake Seresna of the Toronto Argonauts.
All right, two definitely high-profile free agents. I had them in contention for me as well. And I will say, Trey, when you took Tyrell Ford in the first round, he was the one I was debating between either him or Justin McInnis. So I'm liking this list so far, guys. What you got to add to it with your second-round pick, Trey?
I'm going to go with a guy I am absolutely shocked is not re-signed, but the team seemed to pick up some other running backs. I'm going to go with Grey Cup champion Kadeem Carey at running back. Very surprised he wasn't re-signed by Toronto. We're going to talk about Andrew Harris. It kind of seems like Andrew Harris syndrome in Toronto, maybe a little bit here with this guy. Over 1,000 yards last year. Could have had more touchdowns, but yeah. Definitely a guy that we joked about. I joked about in this show that would be crazy if we could get him in the backfield in Winnipeg along Oliveira. But yeah, I think a guy I don't know where he's going to fit in, but I would definitely take him.
Yeah, that's the one thing that for me I'm wondering, right, is Kadeem Carey should be one of these top 5 free agents, but where is he getting a starting job? Because not a lot available out there. And that's the tough side of the business when it comes to the CFL. It's back to me with back-to-back picks here. I'm going to complete the second round with a run of Toronto Argonauts. I think this might be a common theme and I'm going to the linebacker position, going to Wynton McManus, who I think is just such a crucial contributor. 57 tackles, 1 interception, 1 sack, always making big plays for the Toronto Argonauts. I think for them, they're going to lose a lot of pieces. They've talked about having to make pay cuts and tough choices. I think he's a piece, a leader on that defense. You just absolutely have to bring back if you are the Argos. Any thoughts on McManus? Well, I take 1 second to think of my next pick.
No, like I said, it's kind of when I was making my list, Toronto is one of those teams that I think there's going to be a lot of guys on there as the defending champs that they have some big names that they might not be able to sign or have space for. And what Toronto's already up, 3 of 6. So yeah, I see it.
And then for my second pick in the third round here, or my first pick of the third round, but my second back-to-back pick, I'm gonna stick with another name that was just thrown out in the chat that I actually didn't have on my initial list. It's Niles Morgan, 112 tackles last year, 111 defensive tackles. It was him and Anderson together, that 1-2 punch that basically threw up numbers that was reminiscent, and I know it's a small sample size, but reminiscent of that Big Hill and Elimimian duo that BC had, right? So if Edmonton can keep those guys together, or wherever anybody else that's looking for a linebacker fill, and I think Niles Morgan has steadily over the last couple of years progressed. He had 107 tackles the year before, so he's busy around the football field. He had 107 tackles in 15 games the year before. Only 4 more in 18 this year. If he would have played the whole year the year before, I wonder what he would have done. Wow. But yeah, give me back-to-back linebackers here on my list. As we move over to you again, Trey.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with another DB, a guy we talked about earlier in the show. When I first heard he got released, I was like, ooh, the Bombers should jump on that. And I still say it after a 2-game suspension. Give me Purifoy. I think that would be a good addition on any secondary in the league right now, a veteran presence. Even with a 2-game suspension, you're getting him for the long haul. He is 30, so maybe sitting out 2 games early isn't terrible when you might need him down the stretch. He had a career high 5 interceptions last year. Not too bad for the 32-year-old.
Adam, any thoughts on Purifoy? You're muted.
Yeah, no, he's a great pick. I think he'd fit well on quite a few teams here. And being a DB, I mean, there's lots of them this year, but he's definitely one of those that can definitely produce. For Edmonton, he did. And for Saskatchewan before that, he did. And I'm sure for whatever team he's going to go to next, he will as well. So the guy I'm going to go with next, the defensive lineman, had a couple picks for the Riders last year, looked really good. I'm going to go with Malik Carney. Again, most fights are always won in the trenches, and Malik Carney and Micah Johnson and all
didn't
those.
You just talk about him being re-signed earlier? I thought you
Malik
did.
Carney isn't. No, I said he should be. I said when he is, that'll be a big deal.
No, he was extended on January 13th.
All right. Well, that just made me look foolish. Anyways, give me 1 second here.
These top 5 countdowns always do, Adam.
I know. Anyways, I'm going to go with this. Then fine. I'm going to go with the center because, again, this is your kind of control guy of the whole line. Give me Peter Godber of the Saskatchewan Roughriders. When he was healthy, the Roughriders looked a lot better than when he wasn't there. And when he wasn't there, yeah, definitely the Riders suffered quite a bit. Now, if you would have told me that in the 4th round, I'm going to take a wide receiver from the Bombers, I can't believe I have, but I've waited this long. But I'm going to go with Dalton Schoen of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I mean, at this time of the thing, if he makes it this far down on anybody's list, that would be surprising. Again, top receiver for the Bombers. Yes, he was injured last year, but he still can prove himself to be a great receiver, and now he's well rested.
Oh boy, to me, huh? Yeah, no, Dalton Schoen. He was on my list. I didn't have him quite in my top 5, but definitely was a guy that I was thinking about reaching to just in case. I'm surprised I've gotten my number 1, 2, and 3, and my number 4 guy is still available as well. Give me Grey Cup champion Nick Arbuckle. I'm actually surprised there's no space for him right now either. It's kind of the same thing as Kadeem Carey. No idea where this guy's going to fit in. Clearly Toronto's going to go with Kelly and, someone else. Dukes probably if he's under contract. Oh, Dukes is a free agent too, I think, actually, I just saw. So I don't know. Very interesting to see here where Nick Arbuckle is. And again, I'm a guy, if he's willing to take second backup rate, maybe a guy in Winnipeg, maybe a guy in BC, but he did just win the Grey Cup 3 months ago. So
yeah, I didn't have Nick Arbuckle on my list, but I can see why you did. As much as we talked about earlier that I'm high on the random quarterbacks after a couple of performances, I think for me, I've just seen so much of Arbuckle play underwhelming football over the last couple of years where the Grey Cup win was impressive, but I still don't trust him. And maybe that's just trust issues on my part with Arbuckle. Moving on to my 4th round pick, though, there's a couple of different directions. I think I want to go back to wide receiver, but there's too many I want to pick, which is a problem. There's one I'm really surprised hasn't shown up on anybody's list yet, but I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to just, favor to the homers here, the Canadians, and go with another Canadian wide receiver here in Keandre Smith of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He had 933 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. I think he's steadily improved. He had 700 yards the year before that on an offense that has the likes of Tim White, Shamar Bridges with the breakout last year. Stephen Dunbar had a great season as well. I think Smith really proved himself that he is one of those receivers on the rise. I think Canadian receivers are a hot commodity, and we're seeing them be bigger factor around the CFL. So I think he could be a huge get for a team looking for one if the Ticats can't find a way to bring him back into the fold. So that's Keandre Smith. That is my 4th round pick. I'm going to my 5th round pick. Do I go for another receiver? Do I go to the defensive side of the ball? I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to go to the defensive backfield. And let me go to the Ottawa Redblacks and give me Damon Webb. 68 tackles last season, 5 interceptions. I think 3 of them came in that one game against the Argos, if I'm not wrong. 2 sacks from as a defensive back as well. I thought he was a huge breakout player the last couple of years in that Ottawa backfield and could be a guy making a big name for himself this year.
Like it. I'm actually surprised, man. I'm going to get my top 5 all in proper order here. Give me Kenny Lawler, number 5. I'd actually take him over Dalton Schoen. Injury or not, I just think he's more of a. I think Schoen's a good player, but I think he just benefits so much from the waggle where Kenny Lawler has guys all over him and he makes circus catches on the sideline. Yeah, he's kind of hit and miss, but that's every receiver, depending on game plan or whatnot. So yeah, I think Kenny Lawler I would take over Dalton Schoen. If I was the Bombers and only could pick one, or any team, if I was going to pick one, I think I'd go for Kenny Lawler over Schoen. And yeah, my 5 is exactly in order how I wanted it. So I'm kind of surprised.
He was the guy I was talking about that I was surprised nobody had.
I figured. But as soon as you said, I'll go with the defense, I was like, okay, we're good. I was screwed if you did take him because I didn't have anyone else. So here we go. Adam, let's go. Who's your Tom Brady, your last pick of the last round? Let's go.
Todd pick of the top last round. I can't believe nobody, especially Winnipeg fans, didn't want to pick him back up. I mean, he was a special team specialist for a very, very long time. I'm going to go with Janarian Grant to the Toronto Argonauts. Boy, you know what? Put him on almost any team. You instantly get field position right away. I mean, Toronto loved that last year. Every time that he was on the field, he was dynamic. Either he's getting a touchdown or he's at least probably getting you up to the 45, 50, maybe even a bit better every time almost with Janarian Grant. So, boy, he'd be a great replacement for Mario Alford. I think even I'd be happy to have Janarian Grant on my team.
I'm surprised Trey didn't take him. I feel like Trey's the big Janarian Grant guy.
I think
I like him, but I actually feel more and more, maybe it's my NFL mind, I'm putting a lesser importance on the special teams game. And I know it's still very important. And I saw Winnipeg this year didn't quite get it down pat. With Luck, Whitehead had some struggles. A couple of guys had some struggles. But the special teams, I just don't see the point in signing a guy for whatever, 250,000 just to catch a punt 3 or 4 times a game. I just don't see it. But he's a dynamic player in that position. I just think it's like a running back. You could have a guy with speed and good hands, and But that's
anybody got any honorable mentions?
I see people in the chat liking your pick of Janarian Grant. Actually, all 3 of these guys we picked in round 5 were on my short list for my final pick there, so I had him there too. Honorable mentions I talked about him, Stephen Dunbar. He had the better season than Keandre Smith did. I just think the passport there for Smith makes him a hotter commodity, but he had 1,159 yards and 5 touchdowns last season. I had Micah Awe, 69 tackles at linebacker for the Stamps last year, and kind of surprised nobody took a Darius Pickett, who I think was probably the number 1 defensive free agent last season, but only played 13 games this past year. Those were in my honorable mentions. Trey, do you have anybody else on your list? You said no?
I think I had Acklin was my next guy, 6, just in case you guys screwed me over. I had a couple of guys you picked, and then he was my other guy extra. So very weird list this year. I mean, there's some big names, and then some teams you just think there's a couple names you're like, who's that? So I don't know, weird year.
Yeah, you know what? I picked Peter Godber. I think maybe a little bit early in this list. If I was doing it again, probably I wouldn't have. Other than that, I kind of like what my list was at. An honorable mention, though, for me, you can't usually get very many that are real consistent like he is. Sean White, BC Lions, that wouldn't have been a bad one, I thought. And
I think he's re-signed.
Did he
with
resign
them.
already too? Okay.
He must be, because he's part of that Arrow Up series that they're doing this year. So if he's not and he signs somewhere else, that's really awkward.
Let me just take a look here, because I'm sure he wasn't earlier.
He signed on the 7th.
All right, be that way. Okay, well then I'll just mention another one. There's two other offensive linemen that I probably would like to see in green and white, but I mean whatever color they're going to be pretty good in. Liam Dobson of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, he's a free agent. That's a big one if the Bombers lose that. And Jacob Ruby over in Ottawa, that's also another big offensive lineman that could be a big loss for Ottawa if he goes away. So yeah, those two are pretty good. And the other one also is on the defensive side for the BC Lions, Nathan Cherry, national, played in the U of S. He's a really good defensive lineman, I believe. So he would be a good one to have on any team. Plus Canadian.
I'm just scrolling through the lists of free agents now, and an interesting name that does stand out to me that is not going to get any talk because I think he missed almost the entire season due to injury is Kyron Moore of the Edmonton Elks, who used to be, back when he was with the Riders, considered one of the top receivers in the CFL and was a notable addition of Edmonton. So we'll see if he can bounce back from that injury. Trying to scroll through the list here and see if anybody else stands out.
Sean Oakman's actually a pretty big one as well. I think he isn't re-signed from what I see.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's correct.
And then one in the chat that FM fan brought up was Royce Mechie. He did have some time at the later part of the season there for the Toronto Argonauts. Actually looked pretty good. I think he had a pretty good play in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he'd be an interesting one too. Plus national.
You could honestly throw like most of the Argos roster on this top 5 countdown.
That's because, wasn't there a rumor that they were telling everybody to take 25% less?
Yeah.
Anyways, these are our top 5 lists, our top 5 free agent drafts. Let us know in the comments section or on social media at CF Countdown Pod everywhere. Whose list you like the most? To run through it again, I've got Justin McInnes, Winton McManus, Niles Morgan, Keandre Smith, and Damon Webb. Trey drafted Tyrell Ford, Kadeem Carey, Loucheiz Purifoy, Nick Arbuckle, and Kenny Lawler. And Adam drafted Eugene Lewis, Jake Ceresna, Peter Godber, Dalton Schoen, and Janarian Grant. These make up, I guess, our collective top 15 CFL free agents. And we'll see how many of these get signed in the coming days. And hopefully some of these are left on the board by the time we get to free agent frenzy on February 11th.
Plot twist, you have to take one of these guys in our fantasy draft in May. Just kidding.
Ooh.
Deal.
I mean, I don't have a problem doing that. I'll take my first overall pick.
No, you guys actually are pretty good. I thought Adam had more defensive players, but never mind. I see Schoen and Janarian Grant. I forgot about that. Never mind.
And Eugene Lewis.
And Eugene Lewis. Never mind. I was hoping you guys had more defensive players.
Yeah, all you got is one running back and one wide receiver there, Trey.
Your only option might be Kenny Lawler by the time we get to the
fine.
season.
That's fine.
Well, that was a fun little adventure. Oh, that's not the... No. I have too many... That's the one. That's the one. So let us know on social media what you think of our top free agents. Let us know if there are any that we missed as well that you think are notable. And let us know which ones you'd like to see your team sign. Just let us know in general. Interact with us on social media. Or in the CFC Discord, where the link is in the episode description. It is free to join us over there. Anything else you guys want to chat about before we wrap things up?
We got to talk about
championship picks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We got to talk about NFL picks this weekend.
I got to look up who's in the...
You don't know? Oh, man. Commanders, Eagles, and then Chiefs and Bills, baby.
I think I got almost every one of my picks wrong last week except the Chiefs.
No, I got the Bills right too, I think, but
some
I don't
idiot
think I
I
got
worked
anything
with
else.
convinced me to take Houston with the point spread, and that one didn't pan out. But anyway, or it did, whatever. But no, NFL wasn't my greatest one.
So who's hiding Brian Andrews for the next till the next off season?
I'm just telling you right now, I'm going Washington Bills, man. It's Washington. And
hang on. Are we talking about Mark Andrews, Adam?
Or Mark Andrews? Yep.
Okay, like who the heck is Brian Andrews?
That was so brutal, wide open, just bobbled, and then he had that fumble earlier. But and Lamar, I think I honestly would rather them just replay that game and kick Kansas City out. Like I think that those are the teams I would rather see. I don't want to see 3 hours of Caitlin Clark with Taylor Swift again. That's fine.
All I know is Andrews is probably not welcome in the state of Maryland right now.
I don't think you can blame it. I mean, sure, but can't blame him. Lamar threw 2 picks earlier in the game.
Missed kicks by Tucker and.
I also saw, wouldn't they have had time left on the clock where they probably would have lost anyways, even if he got that?
Who, the Baltimore?
Yeah.
No, if he caught the 2-point conversion, it was tied.
Oh, okay. But was there not still time left on the clock?
Yeah, probably. That was my one thing. I thought they left way too much time to Josh Allen, and he probably would have stormed the field, at least gotten field goal range either. Anyway, but, shitty weather in Buffalo in January, a 40-yard, 50-yard kick's not guaranteed. So, and they went for 2 earlier in the game too, Baltimore, which kind of screwed them up. But then what does FM fans say? What do I think about Houston player shoving his coach? I thought that was funny, but anyway, I don't know. First play of the game too, wasn't it? When Kansas City had that big kick return early, and he shoved the coach, and then I don't know. It's whatever. Houston's a weird team. They're in a crap division. They shouldn't have been in it. And it's going to be, I want to see Buffalo and Commanders. That's what I really want to see.
But what do you think is going to happen?
Oh, that's what I think is going to happen. I think Washington, I think Philly's poser. I don't like Philly. I have never liked Philly. I think Jalen Hurts isn't quite the quarterback. I think he's just had a good team around him, and maybe Saquon can carry them, but I want to see Daniels, man. I think he's the real deal, a rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl. And then on the other side, you get Buffalo, who hasn't never won one and had 4 straight appearances, 30 years ago? I think that's the Super Bowl everyone wants to see.
What do you have, Adam?
I've got Buffalo on the one side just because I cannot stand watching Taylor Swift go on. I can't anymore with them. Wave and smile and carry on. And plus, I don't want to see Zach Alaros. Anyways, then on the other side, I like Jaden Daniels, man. That's fun. That's fun to watch, especially a rookie quarterback and a team that is no longer owned by Dan Snyder. It's just been beautiful in Washington lately. But that being said, the Cinderella story is going to end, and it's going to end sooner than later, unfortunately. I think Philly's going to win this one. They're at home. Those Philly fans are nuts. But no, give me Philly, give me Buffalo, and I hope Buffalo pulls it off.
I also I kind of want Washington too, because I think if any team will beat Kansas City, it would be the Cinderella story. If Washington beats Philly, what do they have? They got nothing to lose against Kansas City. They've won already. I think they're just going to go into that game 2 weeks off to the Super Bowl. They're just going to go in, just all chill.
Plus, also, if Buffalo wins the thing and wins it all, they're going to have to go and get a whole pile of lumber from Canada, so they can't charge a tariff to build new tables.
Just to address the comment in the chat, do you have 2 YouTube streams going at once? Yes, in fact, we do. We have our main Canadian Football Countdown YouTube page, youtube.com/@CFCountdownPod. And then we're also streaming live on the Game Time TV YouTube page because they are our presenting sponsor. So I'm gonna guess this comment is coming because we've referenced comments in the chat that people aren't seeing because they're in the opposite chat. So yes, if you ever hear us call out the YouTube chat, it could be one or it could be the other, and it doesn't show us on our end which one it's coming from. So your guess is as good as mine, and that could lead to some of the incomplete chatter going on there.
We're like TSN. Let's put the same game on 3 channels, right?
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. My picks to go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to go with the Commanders as well. I think that's really fun. I do find it so interesting reading about Jaden Daniels and his training with like the VR headset that he does to prepare him for like pressure as a quarterback. I thought that was fascinating and something we haven't seen yet. So rooting for him for sure. And yeah, I like them a little bit more than the Eagles in this matchup. I'm going to rain on everybody's parade, though. I'm taking the Chiefs to beat the Bills. It's one of those things. It's just like the same thing where if Winnipeg, gets into the West Final, I'm probably going to always take Winnipeg based on track record recently to make it all the way to the Grey Cup and then probably lose. Until they lose, I'm going to keep taking the Chiefs to win.
I'm just hoping at some point Peyton Manning finally beat Tom Brady. Eli Manning beat Tom Brady. So I'm just hoping finally Josh Allen can beat Mahomes. That's all I want.
Maybe they're waiting for Arch Manning to beat
Maybe. And then
he's a quarterback, right?
Yeah, he is. Longhorns.
I have no words.
I'm just yeah. Or what's that fake character Eli dressed up Chad Powers or whatever? I have to get him in. To beat Mahomes. But no, I think both games will be really good on Sunday. I'm really excited for it. So
on a quick note here, I was just looking at some other news. Apparently, Marco Michel has signed a contract with the Calgary Flames. I'm joking. He just was out skating with them.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what? I thought
otherwise, I got another player to chase down. Otherwise, I'd have another player to chase down.
Yeah, if the CFL ever folds, Adam's going to have the most interesting senior hockey team of all time.
Actually, there's a hockey game this weekend. February 1st, the Riders take on the Riders.
No.
In Regina. They actually have a hockey game. They sell tickets and everything for Kidsport or something, I think. But yeah, Andrew Harris might have a Gordie Howe hat trick at it. Who knows? And that's the real reason we signed him as a running back coach, just so he could play in the hockey game.
Adam might be the only guy in Canada hoping for another NHL lockout, just because then he might get some players to come play for the Buffs.
Yeah, no. I'll let you know when Crosby lands.
Do it, Gary. Do it. Another lockout. We need a championship this year.
Hey, I mean, everyone talked about the XFL being the threat to the CFL. Maybe all along it's been the Saskatchewan Senior Hockey League.
The Saskies Hockey League. It's where it's at.
I see it. Another comment here about CFL Commissioner frontrunners. We did chat about that a little while ago. If you go back and check, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes ago, maybe about half an hour ago in the chat, we did talk about CFL frontrunners. If you want to go back and take a look at who we think may be commissioner, and spoiler alert, we didn't give a lot of names, although Adam gave one. All right, guys, let's get into wrapping things up here. We'll probably be back again next week to talk more CFL news, maybe make some predictions for where some of these free agents might land. I think that would be kind of fun. So we'll do that probably in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media on Twitter or X at CF Countdown Pod, Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod, Blue Sky, CF Countdown Pod.bsky.social. I don't know, whatever the handle is, it's CF Countdown Pod on Blue Sky. Follow us over there and stay tuned because we're gonna have a lot of promo stuff coming out in the next little bit for really the big thing we're focusing on now is CFL Free Agent Frenzy, 8-hour live show, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday, February 11th. It's our big show every year that we put a lot of stuff into. So we would really appreciate if you're listening to this if you help us spread the word, share the posts and all that fun stuff, and get people to check it out, because it's a lot of work that goes into it. And we do it for you because we're the only ones out there that will do a full day, that are crazy and stupid enough to do a full 8-hour live stream on the opening of CFL Free Agency.
Yup.
Check out all the other great shows from around the Canadian Football Podcast Network as well, at CF Pod Network on Twitter, and the Alternative Football Network at the official AFN on Twitter, and alternativefootballnetwork.com. I believe we also have a new show joining the Alternative Football Network this week, talking about the Michigan Panthers. Looks like Michigan Panther Pride. So go check that out. You can find all of that at the alternativefootballnetwork.com. Where can people find everything you guys have going on? Let's start with you, Adam.
You can find me at Adam Stewart 1 over on the Twitter. That's kind of where X, sorry. That's, I guess, where I'm mostly hanging out. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook too if you really look me up. Just wanted to throw a thank you though to all of our fans. We got lots of great guys that are always on here and always talking to us and always trying to encourage us to talk more about CFL and other stuff. So thank you all to you. You're going to see some ads running pretty soon to the Canadian Football Countdown. If you can do us a favor and share those, that would really, really, really help us get more people to Free Agent Frenzy Day and get more people talking and being excited about what we're doing on that date. So yeah, if you see the ads, share them away. Give them a like, do something with them anyways. Yeah, it helps the show out immensely. Trey, where can people find you?
He can find me on the X at TreyMB Harness. I was about to make the move over to Blue Sky, and then X just got so much more wildly entertaining for me the last week, but I'm sure this move to Sky or whatever, Blue Sky, is going to come soon. Yeah, just a lot of harness racing stuff right now. That's all ends in CFL Free Agency. And like Adam said, thanks to everyone in the chat. Make sure to share, like, we do this for fun, but it's a lot of work, and we enjoy you guys' comments and feedback, unless you're the losers on Reddit. So that's about it. That bugged me. I don't know why. That bugged me. So there we go. I'm just going to hate me. I don't care. I'll tell you my address. Meet me outside in the parking lot. I don't care. Flagpole at recess, I don't care. Sorry. Okay. This is the last time I was on the show, guys. I'll see you.
All right, Trey. We'll see you next week alongside Adam and myself, and maybe Mike. Probably not, but maybe.
I'm kidding.
He's busy. He's got a lot going on right now. Follow him on X at Mike Garrell as well. Check out what he's got all going on there. You can find me on X at Cooper Trooper 42. Same thing with on Blue Sky. I'm not doing a whole ton on there, but mainly focusing on getting our free agent tracker up and running for Free Agent Frenzy as well, which hopefully I will have up and running by the end of the week so that we have that stuff prepped. Just kidding. It's Thursday. I probably won't have it ready by the end of the week. But nonetheless,
Ryan,
I know I dropped the ball. I am slacking over here. Check out Discord. Yeah, I mentioned that. And whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate if you do all the fun things such as like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends, help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. On behalf of Trey and Adam, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.